Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We've got a couple more minutes before we get everything kicked off. Appreciate you being here today. Going to give everyone just another minute to log in for today's webinar. All right, we're just at the top of the hour. We have a lot of great information today, so we're going to go ahead and get kicked off and let everyone else come in as they can. So good morning, and thank you again for joining us for IANTA's webinar series. Today's webinar in partnership with Community Navigator Program through the U.S. Forest Service. My name is Danielle Tehama, and I'm the Education and Business Development Director at the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association, or IANTA. Before we jump in, just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions, please place them in the chat for Q&A. We'll get to at the end of the presentation, time permitting. But we do want to make sure we have plenty of time for you to speak directly with our speakers today. Next slide. A little more about IANTA. For more than 25 years, the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association has served as the only national organization dedicated to advancing cultural heritage tourism in Native nations and communities across the United States. Established by tribes for tribes to address the inequities in the tourism system, IANTA is a 501c3 national nonprofit governed by an all-Native board of directors and serves as a united voice for the $11.6 billion Native hospitality sector. Our mission is to define, introduce, grow, and sustain American Indigenous tourism that honors traditions and values while helping Native-led businesses and tribal enterprises to become market and export ready for domestic and international markets. Native nations and communities that are looking to start or expand their cultural tourism footprint can find resources at ianta.org. And visitors interested in learning more about Native culture can visit nativeamerica.travel.tie. Today's webinar is designed to help you be in compliance with your federal grant agreements, specifically project narrative reporting. Before I introduce you to the next speakers, and before we get into the rest of the presentation, next slide, please. Please check out our website for additional training opportunities, including our partnership-based certificate program with Arizona State University coming up next month. You can scan this slide or visit our website for more information regarding that certificate program, upcoming webinars, past webinars, and resources for upcoming events. Please also consider signing up for our weekly newsletter, the Rupert Report, to keep up to date with all things Indigenous tourism. Next slide. One more bit of information from me before I introduce our speakers. Please join us at the 27th Annual American Indigenous Tourism Conference. This year will be hosted by the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians at the beautiful Pearl River Resort in Choctaw, Mississippi on October 27th through the 30th. If you're not already registered, please join us. The website is listed there. As we celebrate resilience, creativity, and collaboration in the ever-evolving world of Indigenous tourism. We'd love to see you this October. Next slide, please. And here's what you're all here for. So our first speaker today, I'd like to introduce Larry Calhoun. He's a leadership management expert who is known for delivering high energy and production to all projects he's involved in. As a decorated combat veteran, Calhoun brings unique perspectives gained from his experience to the National Park Service. He seeks to empower the NPS and partners along the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail to unleash the untapped potential of their projects. Using real world examples, he demonstrates how the talent each person and organization brings to the table can positively impact the mission. We also have with us today Alonzo Moscaso. He's a grants management specialist with ample experience in grants and cooperative agreements from both the recipient and government standpoints. He's currently managing an extensive grant portfolio that involves National Parks complex competitive and non-competitive awards. He's passionate to serve the public and is eager to help recipients succeed in their projects by providing technical assistance anytime that he's needed. Before I pass it to our speakers, again, please remember to use the chat feature. We'd love to have a really robust conversation at the end of this, and I will turn it over to Larry. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, I appreciate the introduction. It made me sound really important, so I do appreciate that. So what we're going to discuss this morning, at least in my section, is post-award reporting requirements, and just try to give you some information on that. We don't want the reporting side to be scary or intimidating, but it is a requirement. And if there's any questions, always use the ATR or the program manager from the government, or in my case, the Park Service side. We're always open, as well as Alonzo pointed out, he's open to communication at any time with you guys. Next slide, please. So an overview, we'll go through the grant solutions and including the reporting and modifications and document submissions, and it's open to all NPS, and I'll specifically be on the National Park Service grants. Next slide, please. So the first key here is with registration and access. With the National Park Service, we utilize Grant Solutions as our grants management system for post-award activities to include reporting. Some of the key post-award reporting requirements in Grant Solutions is, first thing is registration and access. All grantees are required to register and submit grant reports and any kind of modification requests, and this would be done in Grant Solutions. And then ensure that you are registered and have all the correct user roles assigned to your Grant Solutions profile to access your grant and to be able to submit reports. So I know folks change positions and people leave, and so when that does occur, you need to keep that side of the reporting and with the contacts up to date. Next slide, please. Reporting types. There are a number of different reporting types, obviously. The first one's the interim reports. It's required for the duration of the grant, including any extensions. So there's really no set interim report timeline. Some like it meetings once a month. Some are quarterly, but that's will be laid out in the grant itself, in the financial agreement of when the grant manager would like you to report to them and update them. Final reports, they are due within 120 days of the project's completion. So let's say it's an annual, the grant is for a year. It ends in June 30th. So the final report would be due in September. And then other deliverables, depending on the grant agreement, and everything would be laid out into that. You may also need to submit additional deliverables like plans specifications or publications according to the nps.gov. Next slide, please. Your reporting content. Both interim and final reports require a description of activities completed and funds expended. Financial reporting is done via the SF 425, it's a federal financial report, an FFR, which it can be submitted within the Grant Solution website. The narrative progress reports is also necessary, detailing the project's activities and achievements. And then a final budget is required with the final report to show that all the funds were expended. And SF 428, a tangible personal property report, is only required for interim and final reports if equipment was purchased with the grants fund. So let's say you buy a computer, you need to let us know that that's something that's going to carry on past the grant period. Next slide. Submission process. Reports are submitted through the Managed Reports portal in Grant Solutions. What I tell people is to go into Grant Solutions and kind of like play around with it till you get accustomed to using it and get comfortable with that. Need to ensure all necessary documents such as your SF 425 and your SF 428, if applicable, are included. I've gotten a lot of questions about sub-grants. If it exceeds $30,000, it must be reported in FSRS within the month following the sub-grant agreement. So there is another piece of paperwork that you have to fill out and submit within 30 days of a sub-grant if it exceeds $30,000. So, with compliance and deadlines, this is extremely important because I've had some experience with folks. Let's say they got a $300,000 grant and they've got a $10,000 grant. They tend to kind of blow off the $10,000 grant reporting. That will come back and haunt you, honestly, because they'll look at it. Well, you didn't comply for this, so so they're all, doesn't matter the amount, they're all equitable as far as the reporting and the compliance side. They must be submitted by their due dates to ensure compliance. Failing to submit reports on time can result in obviously non-compliance, and it could again haunt you down the road if you apply for additional funds. Important notes on this: always refer to your specific grant agreement for the most accurate and current reporting requirements and deadlines. And you can find that information on nps.gov. Grant Solutions offer training and support throughout their help desk to assist grantees with the system and reporting. They are always updating things, as you guys know, and so some of the rules of engagement you do need to stay updated on what is required. And then retaining your grant records for at least 3 years from the date of the final report. So make sure if they come back to audit you, you have that information. Keep it for 3 years at a minimum. I would actually keep it longer, but I'm a hoarder, so I keep things. But I would keep it, do that. And basically that's it. I apologize, I did rip through this, but the main thing is to get any questions that pop in your mind. But just basically, it's very simple with the reporting. You just gotta keep an open communication with the ATR that's assigned and/or the grants manager or the program manager, project manager for, in this case, the NPS. Next slide. Alonzo, I mean, this kind of gets into more your area with the different types of reports.
Sure. Can we go back one slide, please? Yes, thank you
Sorry.
so much. No, you're fine. So I'm basically just gonna touch on the financial aspects of the reporting. I do want to clarify for the subrecipient reports, the FCRS is being retired. It was retired back in March. So you should know that now we use SAM for sub-awardee reports. So I just wanted to clarify. Sorry, we did not correct the slide there. For the S425, which is our financial report, you're probably familiar with that form. We use the form for all federal agencies. It's the same form. So you should be familiar with it. But I wanted to touch on some of the things that I see recipients making mistakes on this report. For example, the reports have to be cumulative, right? I often see reports that with new recipients, especially where they are reporting what they spend during the reporting period, and then the next reporting period they forget about what they spent before. So it's just important to remember that you have to do it cumulatively. So you have to include what you spent in the previous reporting period and you report it as you go. That's very important for this report. And then cash on hand. I comment my recipients a lot when it comes to cash on hand. Many recipients don't know that cash on hand needs to be explained. And we have a section on the report, section 12, where you have space. And if you don't have enough space, you can always just attach an extra piece of paper explaining why you kept the cash on hand. Because you're supposed to be spending what you draw down, right? And so if for whatever reason something happened, your contract got canceled, or what you were gonna buy didn't happen, and then you're stuck with $12,000. We want to know why that happened. So just please remember to always explain the cash on hand. And then unliquidated obligations. This part of the report, it always causes confusions as well. So I just want to clarify what unliquidated obligations means. And it's just briefly, it means things that have been obligated but not paid out yet. So an example of that would be, let's say that you ordered a printer for $5,000. You ordered it online, but you haven't paid it out yet. The money has not left your books yet. So that would be considered an unliquidated obligation. You obligated the money for the printer, but you have not taken the money out of your books yet. Okay, so that's all it means. Program income. That's another thing that sometimes causes confusion. And I always tell my recipients to look at their agreements because it will vary. It will change how you treat your program income depending on what you agree with the government. If you were approved for program income, you should be reporting it. There is a special section in the S425 where you have to report it. And if there is a cost share, you have to, if you were approved for using the cost share method for program income, that means that you will be offsetting your cost share with program income. So if that's the case, you can always use section 12 to explain something that may not be so clear for your the person who's reviewing your financial report, which in most cases is your GMO or your GMS. Oop. Can we go about one more? Thank you. All right, and that's what I mean with pre-approval. Sometimes you do need approval from your federal agency as to how you're going to treat your program income. For example, with MPS, our agreements, we have a template that is a standard for all our recipients that says, if you read it, you're supposed to use the additive method. And what does that mean is that if you're making program income, you're supposed to add it to your total project cost. So that means that you have to spend it in the project. Okay, but let's say that you have a cost share and you want to offset your cost share with the program income that you're generating, then you may need approval from your agency. And again, with MPS, we do require pre-approval. So if you want to treat it that way, just reach out to your GMO or your GMS and ask, do we need pre-approval for this? Ideally, this is something that you want to do even before, during the pre-award phase of the agreement. But if you didn't address this from the beginning, you can always go back and talk to your GMO or your GMS. And then indirects, there is a special section on the S425 that where you have to report your indirect expenses. And I just want to remind everybody that this will change depending on your NIGRA. If you're using a NIGRA, of course, if you're using the de minimis rate, this doesn't apply to you. But if you do have a NIGRA, any changes, let's say that you had a NIGRA for 25% this year, and the next year you get something lower, just remember you have to adjust. So it may change your budget depending on how much it changes. But I just want to remind everybody to take this into consideration because I see a lot of mistakes when it comes to this part of the report. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Like Larry said, there are times where you will have to report property. This may not be the case for everybody. Basically, you just use the property reports if you're buying property, mostly equipment or maybe supplies that are of value. Let's say that you buy a $5,000 printer. I would definitely include it in your tangible personal property report. Why is this something very important to do? Because when we are about to close out the grant or the cooperative agreement, the GMO is going to look at your reports. And what we want to make sure is that whatever that you put on your application has to match, right? If in your application you said that you were going to buy a vehicle for $25,000, we want to see that on your report. Okay, it has to match. And if for whatever reason you did not buy that property, something happened, you change your mind, you may want to also discuss that with your GMO before you get to your closeout reports, just to get some guidance on what to do in that case, because things have to match with your application and then your closeout reports. And then real property, this probably won't apply for most people because this is just when you are buying real property, which I don't think that's very usual. But if you do have that in your agreement, you have to use this form as SF429. And then for your tangible property reports, we have 424A, which is a form that we use to report property annually. And it's not mandatory, but it's, I strongly suggest that you use this form as you go with your grant, especially if you have a grant or a cooperative agreement that is 5 years, 10 years, you maybe when you want to use that form as you go with your reports. And then for closeout, we do require the S428B. Okay, next slide, please. For the closeout reports, just remember that they are due 120 calendar days. Please notice this. Sometimes people think it's business days, it's calendar days after the end of the performance period. So just look at your agreement, look at your NOA, post it on your wall, make sure that you remember these dates. Grant Solutions is supposed to help you remember this due date, but if you've been using Grant Solutions like I have for years now, you'll know that Grant Solutions sometimes is not the best resource. So don't rely completely on Grant Solutions. Have your own system, put it on your personal calendar, your work calendar, I mean, not your personal calendar, to remember these dates. And then if you need an extension, make sure that you let both people know, your ATR, so your programs person, and then your GMO. Both of them should know of the extension. Sometimes I get a request from my recipients and my programs person doesn't know that my recipient is asking for an extension, but they are tied together because you're reporting the financial part of your grant, but that's tied to your performance, right? So it's important that both people know what's happening. So make sure that you CC both of them and then liquidate all your obligations no later than 120 days of the end of the performance period. That means spend down the money and make sure that you draw down the money because sometimes you will lose it if you run out of time or you forgot to do your drawdown. In some cases, that money will go away, or if you're lucky and your federal agency lets you re-up that money to a different agreement, that's great. But most cases you might lose that money if you don't use it. And also it doesn't look good. I always tell my recipients, it doesn't look good that you're not spending down the money, because when we the end of the year, when the federal agency has to report to Congress, we tell them this is how much we gave them and this is how much they spent. This is how many grants we have that have not been closed out, and this is the standing balance. So it doesn't look good because then Congress is thinking, oh, maybe they don't need this money. So then they don't appropriate this money. So it's very important that you do spend down the money. And we're here to help you. Again, if you need an extension for your POP, let's not wait until we get close to the end of the performance period to ask for an extension. You know, I would suggest that you at least do it 6 months before. If you think that you're not going to be able to spend down all the money, work with your GMO and your programs person to extend your grant. It has to be justified. You know, I don't know, maybe you lost people, staff turnover, or you have to move buildings. You know, so many things could happen, and we understand, and we want to help you succeed with your agreement, your grant, your cooperative agreement, whatever you're working on. And well, finally, federal agency can stamp POP only to draw down. So what this means basically is that, again, we cannot just extend the grant for you to do the drawdown. There has to be some type of justification of why you did not do your drawdown on time. So that's what I'm saying, please, at least 6 months before the end of the POP, reach out to us if you're thinking that you will not be able to, fulfill all your deliverables, all your performance, and two, if you think that you're not going to be able to spend down all the money. And then finally, non-compliance. Many recipients don't know that non-compliance is reported to CPARS. So if you're found non-compliant, you will be reported to CPARS. And what this is, it's a system that we use that is tied to SAM, where we can see what recipients did not comply with their grants. Okay. So that's not good. If you intend to ask for grants for a different agency, they will look at that. And So just, before you get to that point, if you think that something's not gonna work, or you're not gonna meet a deadline, just work with your GMO to make sure that you do not get there. With MPS, we have a special unit called Shared Services, which is there to help recipients make sure that they meet all the deadlines. So they will be sending you emails when your report is due, letting you know, hey, your report's been due so many days, please correct the situation. So they will give you options, before you're found non-compliant, to remediate the situation. So I ask that you please do not ignore those emails. Work with them, work with your GMO to avoid any non-compliance findings. Next slide, please.
Alonzo,
Sure.
that CPARS, it's a contractor performance assessment reporting system.
Correct. Yes. That's a system that only federal agencies have access to, and it's connected to SAM. So when we are working on awarding an agreement, we have to look at SAM and make sure that our recipient doesn't have any integrity or non-compliance findings there. So
Yeah,
we do
I
look
wanted
at.
them to know what it meant.
Oh, yeah,
You know.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, well, for grant solutions, I always tell my recipients, if you're having issues with grant solutions, sadly, there are certain things that we cannot do on grant solutions. So if you're having technical issues, there is a help desk number and an email that you can reach out. And I strongly advise that you call instead of sending an email, because sometimes you may not get an answer from your emails right away. So it's better to just call than if you're struggling with grant solutions. I have no problem meeting with my recipients one-on-one if there is something that I can help with, especially with how to submit reports. That's something that I can help you with. But if you're struggling with the interface, or there is something that it really is inherent to grant solutions, sadly, there is not much I can do about it. Yes, the next slide, please. And then just really quick, thank you, Hannah, for giving them the phone number. I just wanted to touch really quickly on the 2 CFR 200 updates that we had last year. And I'm doing this because I still see many recipients do not know about these changes. And they became effective October last year. And I still see, recipients not knowing the new rules. And so just really quickly, the single audit threshold, it increased from 750,000 to 1 million. So you're not required to do a single audit if you are not spending $1 million in federal funds. And I clarify it's spending because it's not receiving $1 million, but it's spending $1 million. And then the minimum rate also changed, is now 15%. So that's great, I think. Better than the 10% that we had. And then the equipment threshold also increased from $5,000 to $10,000. Just yesterday, I was looking at an application that had a $5,000 computer, a fancy computer, and it was being allocated as equipment. So I had to go back and ask my recipient to fix that, move it to supplies, because it no longer meets the definition of equipment. And then for Indian tribes, this is very important. You're now permitted to follow your own procurement policies. You are no longer required to follow the FAR, the federal rules. You can use your own. I think this is a great change for tribes. Next slide, please. Okay. Well, I'm not completely sure about this one, but grant solutions is what we use. I guess it will depend on what federal agency you're working with, but I think at least DOI mostly works with grant solutions. Some other agencies use different platforms, and grants.gov are mostly for your NOFOs if you want to look at your NOFOs, or if you want to access the forms, you can go there as well, right? And Grant Solutions is what we use to submit all financial reports and the performance reports, like Larry said. And grants.gov are for competitive fund number. That is correct. If you're competing for a grant, that's what you use for, at least for the first part of the process, you will do it on grants.gov. Next slide, I think that's it. Yeah.
That wraps our
Thank you.
presentation portion. Larry and Alonso, thank you so much. I know we have a couple questions from the audience, but Sherry, if we can stop sharing screen just for a moment so we can see our speakers a little clearer. Our first question for you guys is, it says Grant Station, the system required from NPS, or can we use another one?
Did they mean Grant Solutions?
I believe it may have been meant as Grant Solutions.
As far as Park Service, that's the system that we use. They can also, I know Alonso discussed competitive grants or open or grants are in there, but also that's where you would apply for non-competitive grants as well. But yeah, the Grant Solutions is the Park Services venue or
right.
platform for grants.
All right, and our other question. Oh, go ahead, Alonso.
No, I was just gonna say that's correct. I also wanted to clarify, at least with MPS, we can no longer accept reports via email. That happens sometimes. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I cannot accept we're not allowed to do that. So it has to be done via Grant Solutions.
All right, and then our second question from the Q&A. I'm having issues reporting my sub-awardees in sam.gov, and the federal help desk has not been helpful. I get an error saying my agreement number has not been found. I've been waiting 2 months already for them to get my ticket. What do you suggest I do?
Well, I guess my first question would be, who's the grant through? Is it, would be the first question. And the government, the agency, whoever's assigned either the ATR or the program manager for the agency, they need to start communicating with them. Nothing should take 2 months, honestly. And so there's a breakdown, obviously, in communication in that chain somewhere. But make sure, like for an example, if it was the Park Service and it was through the Lewis and Clark, you contact the ATR and or Alonzo. That would, if he's assigned to it, there are a number of different. But contact your contacts with the agency that you're running the project with. Would be my suggestion. Alonzo, you might have something more in depth.
No, I agree. I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. I get frustrated with the government sometimes. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would say reach out to your ATR, to DMO, because they may have contacts or may have, better maybe suggestions to you with dealing with sam.gov. But yeah.
I know it's kind of a not skirting it, but without knowing more in depth of who it's with, that kind of a broad stroke answer.
Thanks for that. And again, Hannah did put Grant Solutions help desk number if that's a potential solution as well. The help desk numbers in the chat. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things, and we can actually discuss this personal with Hannah. Hannah, myself, and Alonzo had to work on a meeting to find the grant that we wanted IANTA to apply for. I think it was back in June, and we had to spend about an hour or so. So things don't always pop up with the numbers. Uh, it's like asking Alexa a question. You got to be very specific, or it'll give you some kind of weird "I don't know" or it won't pop up. So there is, but again, it was not an issue, as Alonzo has stated. It's our best interest to help you because it just becomes problematic for us as well if we don't address it sooner rather than later. So use the folks that are assigned on the government side to help.
Yeah, my advice would be document everything. You know, if you're trying all your best to be compliant and sam.gov is not being of any help, document it. You know, so if someone comes back at you and be like, "Hey, why do you not report it?" You have proof. You know, you have proof that you tried to be compliant.
Mhm. And then a great question in the chat. Do Indian tribes need to submit their procurement policies with their applications if this is something new that we can follow our own procurement policies?
No, you don't have to do that. That you keep that internally. If you were audited, yeah, you may be asked to show your procurement policies, but as your federal agency goes, you don't have to send your documents. No.
All right. One more question. What should you do if you realize you cannot meet reporting deadlines?
B, as soon as you know that, let the ATR know, or and the manager of that program. Actually, give you an example. I had a project that was due to start 3 months before it started. Was due to start. They'd already asked for an extension because they realized they weren't going to get it done in the timeline that was set up in the agreement. Generally try to keep the extension within that year, fiscal year. I think with this one, it was supposed to end in July. They requested a 6 month till December of that year. Uh, I did come back and say my preference would be to try to end it in September for our fiscal year. They did kind of push back and say, no, we need the additional 3 months, and it was granted. So it's going to be on a piece by piece situation or a program situation. But generally, if you ask in plenty of time, which, like I said, they asked 3 months before it was supposed to due to start. But as soon as you realize that you're going to have issues for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. It's just more of a communication and letting us know. So our expectations aren't, don't wait until a week before the deadline and say, hey, we need an extension, because then it's probably not going to happen. I would hope you would know sooner of that you're going to have issues. So just an open communication is what I would say. Other than, and I know we pointed this out, if it's a problem spending the money down, you're not going to get the extension. If it's performance issues or research based that you need more time, but if it's just trying to extend it so you can withdraw the money, it probably will not get extended at that point.
Good point. Thanks, Larry. Alonzo?
Yeah. I would say it varies depending on the federal agency you're working with. So my first thing would be look at the to CFR 200. What does it say about extensions? And then number two would be, does that agency have a federal financial assistance manual? MPS has one, for example. It does not address extensions, sadly. So that means that we can work with you. We don't have rules per se on how to work with extensions, but some federal agencies do have their own internal policies when it comes to extensions. So I would say work with them. If you don't have their financial assistance manual, ask them to give you a copy. Most of the time they are posted on their websites. But you look at those first, and if you don't find the answers there, then reach out, like Larry said, work with your GMO and your ATR.
And the chat's fine, for anyone who does have a specific question, but I have one, Alonzo, something that you mentioned regarding misreporting the purchase of a computer. So if we're talking about property reports and property acquisitions, how do you document and track federally funded property through a grant period? And then what happens? What are the ongoing obligations with property purchased through federal grants?
What do you mean with how do you document it? Like, you mean keeping
Like
receipt?
depreciation, or
Oh.
if it's
Okay. Yeah, I mean, of course you want to keep all your receipts or whatever it costs at the time that you bought it, but it will depreciate, like you said, and it will also depend on, again, the financial assistance manual of your agency. They may have special rules for property. Um, but the rule basically is that you need to ask your agency for disposition instructions. Okay. So let's say that you had a 5-year-old grant and you bought at the beginning of the grant, you bought a $10,000 printer that is no longer $10,000 anymore. Now it costs, I don't know, $5,000. You want to report it, put it on your S4248, and then ask your federal agency for disposition instructions. What do you want me to do with this property? Can I keep it? Do I have to sell it? Do I have to give you the money back? So it will depend on the property, what it is, and like you mentioned, depreciations. Most of the time, the government, if they see that the item depreciated so much, they will just let you keep it.
Yeah.
Or they will let you use it for other projects. Let's say that you have another grant with the same agency. They can tell you, oh, you keep using that printer for your other grant. That's fine. Yeah, so basically I would just reach out to your GMO and ask them for guidance on what to do with your property. But your sole requirement is that you report it. So you start with that. You report it, and then when at the close out of the award, then we can work on the details of what to do with the property.
Thank you for that. So any key takeaways? I would love for both of you in our last 10 minutes or so, just to for those that are still in attendance here, what would you recommend as best practices for organizations regarding grant management and reporting? Just some things, key takeaways.
One of the things that I would recommend is building a relationship with the agency. Again, we go back to communication. It's like with IANTA, the grants that I work with them. I meet with them at a minimum monthly. And then we also have an open forum. If I need something or they need something from me, it's just a phone call. It doesn't have to be any, set up a Teams meeting. It's a lot of times we do a lot of my work with them just over the phone. So it's creating relationships where it's a comfort level, where it's not, like I said at the beginning, where it's scary that, well, we might, we're overwatching you, and it's less that we're all with the grants. We obviously need, if it's my agency, the Park Service, we need a project run, and so we're in the same boat, if you will. We want to get this done, and also have the going forward any other additional grants or projects that would be to maintain the eligibility for.
Yes, I agree with Larry. Reach out to your ATR, to your GMO. Sometimes people are scared of reaching out to us. I don't know why. We're just, people, and we're doing our job, and we're here to help you. So don't hesitate reaching out to us. Whoever GMO is on your NOA, they are supposed to be there to help you. Okay. So there should be an email or a phone number you can call. So yeah. And I guess another advice would be stay informed with the constant changes that we have with financial aid, especially nowadays where things are changing so quickly. I would say invest in keeping your staff informed about these changes, give them training, help them, be good at what they do. And sometimes you can even use some of the grants money for that purpose, right? So yeah, I mean, use the money for, investing on your training and also technology. I would strongly suggest that to help you manage especially your accounting or all your financial internal protocols that you have. Invest on that, because when the auditors are looking at your files, and you have 1,000 PDF files in Word documents in your computer that are not organized, that are not in order, that's not good. And so I would suggest invest in technology so you can stay organized and compliant with all your paperwork.
All right. Any final thoughts for those listening in? Any other final questions? All right. Well, thank you, Larry and Alonso. We've got a couple last minute last two slides before we adjourn for today. Just a reminder, IANTA resources and opportunities. We encourage everyone on this call to check out the resources we have on our website, ianta.org. Our staff and partners work collaboratively to support Indigenous tourism across the U.S. Next slide. And also on our website, in addition to training opportunities, partnership-based certificate programs with ASU, you can visit our website for more information regarding upcoming webinars. This webinar will be posted there, past webinars. You can sign up for future upcoming sessions, as well as resources available to you and your organization. Please, again, also consider signing up for our weekly newsletter, ianta.org. And again, we really appreciate Larry and Alonso being with us today. And we look forward to having you join us on a future webinar for more discussion. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.